Great taste. Sweet. Sour. So good to taste.
Welcome to Great Taste. We are at Green Building Supply, where we are monthly, every first Tuesday. However, I'm going to use this opportunity before you applaud, right, to say that next month, which is November, we won't be here the first Tuesday because the first Tuesday in November is Election Day. So Wednesday, November 7th, is the date of the show for November, all right? So I don't want anybody to, maybe I'll ask at the end, see if you guys remember. You know, there are some people here who might be, you know, we'll see. All right, so Wednesday, November 7th, but normally we're here the first Tuesday of every month at Green Building Supply, so you can do whatever you want to do right now. Excellent, excellent. A little slow, but it's okay, it's all right. And we want to thank Green Building Supply very much for sponsoring this, and Everybody's Whole Foods, of course, for contributing all of the wonderful ingredients that we're going to be using. And I am very, very, very excited to welcome back for the third time, right? Yes. Elisabetta and Carlotta Forte-Calati. And they have totally won everybody's hearts the first two times they've been on the show. And so really excited that they're here again. And they were in Italy all summer, so I hope that you have some very interesting things to share with us. But before we get into any of that, let's just talk about what it is that you've got planned for us. So Elisabetta, would you like to start out?
Yes, sure. So I'm going to make a beignet. So it's originally from Italy. I'm not really sure what part of Italy, but mostly, generally, all Italy. And everyone actually thinks it's from France because, eclairs or choux pastry and all those things that are from France, but they're not actually. And so what I'm going to do today is actually from Italy. And inside there is a cream, then raspberry, and then there is a crunch layer on the top, which is made from butter, sugar, and flour.
That was really intriguing to me, so I can't wait till you get into that, you know, because I haven't seen that type of presentation before, because when I look at this, the dessert, and you were describing it, you know, I think about profiteroles, or what people call, you know, there's another name I'm trying to come up with right now that I'm losing, but...
Are they like swans?
Swans is another thing, you know, that people do when they make the little sculpture, right? Mm-hmm. And cream puffs, that's the word I was looking for. But this is beignet, and so it'll be really interesting to see what the differences are. So excited. Now, I have to say, what I thought was really funny, though, was you went to pastry class again, which you do every summer in France, right? And you told me, what did you learn? What did you learn to make?
Croissants.
Right, croissants. And so I said to Elisabetta, I said, oh, great. So you're going to make croissants? She said, no. But maybe one day you will.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. Now, did those come from Italy or?
No. They're from France. But macarons are actually...
I'm sorry, I just keep looking at the Parisian who's here. So,
macarons are actually from Austria, and they were given to France by the king. So it was like dressed to the king and queen of France. So they were actually from Austria, and then they exported to France.
Right, and just like Catherine de Medici got married to a French whatever king or whatever like that, something like that, right? And she brought all the good stuff from Italy to France, right? We know, yeah, that's how it works. Anyway, the point is, and I'm really glad you brought up the thing about macarons, because why does everybody call them macaroons? Because they're not macaroons. Macaroons are a totally different cookie, and it's just like, it's so weird to me. So, do you like macaroons and macaron? Or do you like both? You like both. I like both too. You know, I do too. But it's just like so weird. And I even saw on the Great British Baking Show they were calling macaroons, and it was just like, okay, I'm out of that. Well, they were British. And what do they know, right? Okay, never mind. Okay, so anyway, okay, so that's what you're making. Really excited about it. So we'll get back to you in just a minute. Let's talk to your sister and see what she's up to. Okay, so you're the pasta queen. So what's happening? This is Carlotta.
Yeah. So basically, I'm just making a traditional Sicilian.
Pugliese.
Okay. Yeah. Tomato pasta, and there's also some cheese in it and spinach.
And originally, or traditionally, we would say, from Puglia, this particular pasta would be made with a pasta shape called orecchiette, which are little ears. But this is a little town, and it's not easy to find little ears of pasta in this little town. So we're doing the best we can. We're substituting another short pasta for that, and it'll be fine. And traditionally also, your father told me that you would use ricotta salata, I think, a type of dry ricotta in this. Again, have to make a little substitution. We're going to use pecorino, so we've got the right animal, maybe just a little bit different cheese, right? So it's sheep cheese, and so right animal, different type of cheese, but I think it'll still be delicious, and really excited to have you make that. And what else is going to be in there? So you've got cherry tomatoes, right? And spinach and garlic and pecorino and
salt, oil, and that's it.
And there's one key to it, which you're going to explain a little bit later, because it's going to make its own sauce, essentially, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get to that in just a minute. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this week that you spent. Well, you should direct me. If you need to get going making this, you should tell me. Otherwise, I'm just going to ask you about other things. So do you need to get going, or can we talk about other stuff first?
It's fine for me. I can do it.
Okay, well, I know you can do it because I tell this story all the time. So, and it just got enhanced because a couple of weeks ago on the new season of Great British Bake Off, there was Caramel Week. All right, so they were all making caramel, and everybody was having problems with the caramel crystallizing, and they had to start all over again. It was just unbelievable. It was just so many, and all I could think about was Elisabetta making caramel here a few months ago. She wasn't even paying attention to it. I was just like, I said to you, don't you have to look at that? And you said no. And I'm just like, okay. And it came out perfectly. So I was just like amazed when all of these seasoned cooks on Bake Off, home cooks, but seasoned home cooks, were just like, couldn't get their caramel to turn out. And you were like, no, I don't need to pay attention to it. It's like, what?
Well, it depends on what person are you, for example, and also like just always like put it on really low fire because it will just get starting like burning just like a minute ago or a second ago is really clear, and then it starts getting burned. So like you always want to pay attention to the last bit of like minute, and you always want to add all the ingredients slowly and warm, because then it will have a thermic shock with the cold.
Well, it won't have any thermal shock that way.
Yeah, with the cold and the the cold and the warm.
Interesting, very interesting. Yeah, your oven's up to temperature, or your oven's up to temperature, somebody's oven. And what's fascinating too is, I'm glad you mentioned that, because you brought up a point that is incredibly critical to cooking and having things turn out well, and that is you have to pay attention. You have to pay attention. It's not good to be reading a book or paying attention to your phone or all kinds of other things while you're cooking. And I was the perfect example of that before all of you came, because I was heating something up on the stove and talking to Carlotta quite a bit, not paying any attention, and let's say I had to rescue what I was doing, and you can see, you don't have any idea that it needed rescuing, but that's this. This is actually going to be pannelle, which is a Sicilian street food. It's very famous, especially in Palermo, which is kind of its home. And I think I could go along with the same story that we started this whole thing off with. Yes, you'll find all kinds of chickpea dishes in other cultures, such as France has their own, chickpea type of fried chickpea. What's it called? Soca, right. And in other parts of Italy, but Sicily is where this started. I was told that by a Sicilian just recently when I suggested that it might have come from somewhere else. So just let's all be straight about that. No need to do any historical research. I'm sure she's right. So anyway, this is going to be a chickpea fritters, and we'll have that at the end. It really doesn't take any time. I'll explain it later. But I want to thank Breadtopia. Came to the rescue today with their mill. What's the name of that mill? Mock mill, right? Because I tried to grind chickpeas in my mill, and even though it says online that you can do that, I can vouch for the fact that you cannot. And the mock mill came in and did the job. So what you're going to have when you have this panelli is actually fresh ground chickpea flour. And you can't use chickpea flour. You have to be careful in terms of what you're using, because most of the chickpea flour a lot of the chickpea flour that's available comes from varieties that are associated with Indian foods, it's not the same. It's not the same thing. And matter of fact, here, I don't think that you can get chickpea flour from garbanzo beans. I think that it's an Indian variety of beans that you would find. So anyway, that's another thing that's on the menu. So when you went to pastry class this year, did you know that you were going to be studying croissants?
Yes, I was. Because, each time before we start, I choose a schedule that I would like to learn. And then she says, okay, we can do this, this, and this. And then so I already knew, what I was going to do.
So was the whole week just spent on croissants?
No. There were, different types. So, maybe brioche. Or
I just want to know what we're going to get later. That's not tonight, but some other time. Brioche, okay.
A different types of creams that helps, French creams that helps, make different desserts. Raspberry, white chocolate, or so different types of ganache, or different types of, maybe how to use chocolate. So all those different things.
Had you already learned how to temper chocolate, for example, in previous classes?
Yes, but I wanted to get more known of it.
Right. Okay. So can I just put in a plug for next summer when you can kind of think about this, because I would love for you to come back and show us how to make Queen Amman. So that's I heard some. I heard some. Not too much pressure? No? Okay. Because that would be heavenly. So, okay, think about that. That'll be great. All right. Okay. So, tell us what you're going to do.
Right now? So, you want me to, start?
I think it'd be a good idea.
Okay. So, what I'm going to start off with is the crunchy part on the top, which I'm going to use flour and sugar. I will need 200, right now I'm multiplying all the ingredients by 2. So if you use it by 1, it's 200 grams of sugar, 200 grams of flour, and 200 grams of butter. So I'm going to put everything in one bowl.
And the butter's at room temperature?
Yes, you want it at room temperature because then it's going to be really, really hard to mix it and everything. And since this, what I'm doing first is what needs to stay in the freezer. So then when the choux pastry are going, we can just, before we put them in the oven, we have to put that on the top. So we need that first. And I'm going to mix it all.
I love that. And what kind of texture are you looking for?
I'm not really sure,
But you want the butter to still, have a little clumpiness to it, right?
Yes, you don't want it too tight and not, too loose,
Right. Okay, so, and that's why it needs to be at room, that's one of the reasons it has to be at room temperature, too, so that you can do that easily. So once you get that the way you want it with the butter mixed in, then what's the next step?
We have parchment paper, and we're going to put it in parchment paper, and then we're going to lay it down and then put it in the freezer.
Oh, for how long?
Until we are done with the choux.
Oh, okay. So then you're going to make the choux.
Yes.
Now, the choux is really flour, eggs, and water. Is that right?
So flour, eggs, butter, salt, sugar, milk, and yeah, that's pretty much.
And are there any key things that could go wrong when you make shoe?
Oh, never open the window of the oven, because if you open it, then when you're gonna take them out, they're gonna be like down. They're not gonna.
They're gonna collapse.
Yes, they're not gonna be crunchy and puffy. You know.
Okay. Did you have any accidents like that?
Yes.
But that's how you learn, right?
Yes, because if you don't make mistakes, you'll never learn.
Yeah. It's really, you just think that it's so easy and simple to do, right?
Yes.
But it does take time, and really it's quite extraordinary because pastry making is something that does take so much actual, not only concentration, but you have to follow the rules. You can't just, like, I'm a home cook and I cook savory things and I can do basically kind of what I want. I can throw this in and that in, and this time it's this way, this time it's another way. But with baking, that's just not the way most baking goes down.
Yes.
You got to follow those instructions. And one of the keys that I learned as a novice baker from a book that was written about by the owner of Zingerman's Bakery was that she pleads with her readers to please just, and I think I've mentioned this on the show before, to please just follow the directions completely the first time at least that you make a recipe. And then after that, feel free to make some changes, if you feel like you have it down. But the first time, at least, do it exactly the way it's written so that you get the hang of it. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, really.
And so do they, what are some of the things that your instructor focuses on during class in terms of some of the important points that she is continually, asking you guys, telling you guys, to remember?
Technique. Because if you don't have or do the right technique, it's going to be like, maybe when you do like meringue, you like want to turn the spatula in the right way. And if you don't turn it in the right way, then it's going to be like all fluffy and it's not going to be like consistency, So
you have to learn how to turn the spatula the right way.
Yes.
There's so much to technique, and what's interesting about that too is I read there's a great podcast. I think I talked about this maybe last time. David Chang has a fantastic podcast right now, and he is one of the most extraordinary cooks in the States and has quite a restaurant empire. And one of the things that he talked about in one of the recent podcasts, which was really interesting, was he was talking with a basketball player. And I'm pretty sure I did mention this, but I'm not sure I mentioned this exact part of it. And what they were talking about was the fact that anyone can, using good technique, can become a good basketball player, can become a good cook. All right? Because anyone can learn technique. But what separates the great cooks and the great players is intelligence, creativity, those aspects. So if you have the technique, that's one thing, but then to that you have to add that intelligence and that creativity, because otherwise you're probably just going to be average no matter how great your technique is. So I think that has a lot to do with, in cooking, it has a lot to do with palates. So somebody who has the technique and also has a fantastic palate and can communicate that through their dishes, that's going to make a world of difference. So can I leave you right now, or is there something you want to explain?
No, I'm just going to put it like on the parchment paper and then just put it in the fridge.
Okay, but then you're going to get started on the shoe?
Yes, I think, but I'll just wait a little bit.
Okay. About how long does the shoe take?
Not a lot, 15 minutes or less. It depends.
Wow. Okay. Sounds good. All right. Let's talk about pasta. You like to make pasta, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Because I like to eat it.
Yes, and I feel exactly the same way about that. And it's something that I could eat every single day, except that my wife can't, so therefore I guess I don't. But I definitely love pasta. And when I'm used to be in Italy, for an extended period of time, and we had this really fantastic person who was our Italian mother there, and she would, of course, fix pasta every day. So there wasn't a day that went by that, when you were in her home, there was always pasta every single day. Different pasta, but there was always pasta. So what are we going to do here?
So do I have to explain? Do I explain?
Please do. Please explain.
So I have cut tomatoes right here. And
these are very pretty, actually. End of the season cherries. Very nice.
And I'm just going to put salt, oil. Sorry, I'm just going to put salt, and then I'm going to smash onion. Wait, no.
I think that's garlic.
Garlic, and then put it in the tomato bowl and leave it there for 5 minutes.
And what's going to happen?
Well, the salt's going to take the liquid out of the tomato, and then the garlic is just going to give more taste to the tomatoes.
Right. So it's going to make its own sauce. So it's going to be great. So you can do this easily. I mean, anybody can do this at home. So especially with fresh tomatoes, it's a great way. So instead of cooking tomatoes at the height of the season, it's a wonderful thing to be able to just take them and even in a salad, even if you're not making pasta, but even more of the family has arrived. I see. So even in a salad, it's a good thing. If you salt your tomatoes ahead of time and let them give up some of their juices, and it'll just make the salad even more wonderful. So it's a great thing. Okay, so what else are you going to have to do? Anything?
After they rested, I'm just going to put oil in it and then leave it 5 more minutes.
Okay. So you're gonna do salt for about 5 minutes, and then you're gonna add olive oil, salt and garlic for about 5 minutes. Then you're gonna add olive oil and let it sit again after that point. Okay. And what we're using, by the way, I just want to show everybody. Where is that? Can you hand me that olive oil, Carlotta, please? Right. This is an oil. At different times, people have brought up the whole idea about that there's a lot of fraud in the olive oil industry, and it raises its head every few years or so, and the New York Times writes an article, and somebody else writes an article, and people come to me and say, oh, did you read that about that? And because it just happens all the time. But it seems that this particular brand scores very highly among people who are supposedly well-versed in olive oil culture, as far as a brand that's easy to find in the States, reasonably priced, and these so-called experts agree that this is actually a very good everyday olive oil that you can use on the shelf and be assured that it's actually extra virgin olive oil, that it isn't cut with other seed oils, and it comes from California. So in all likelihood, it's probably from last year's harvest, though you'll be able to see that on the bottle. I can't look right now to do that. So that's just a tip, and it is available locally, and I think it's available all over the country, actually. So, all right. I think I'll bring this oil back so that you have it to use later. All right. Anything else you want to tell us about this pasta?
I don't really know.
No, well, that's fine. You don't have to know. So you like it. That's the most important thing, right? I think, but your dad's here, and so I might ask him a little bit about. Andrea, could you come up for a minute? Do you mind? I just want to talk about the pasta for just a second, because I understand that it's actually your family comes from Puglia. Is that right? Am I right about that? Okay, so yeah, so this is Andrea Forte Calati.
Hi, everybody.
And so tell us a little bit about your family then.
My family. So my father was born in Puglia, in the south of Italy, and my mother in the north. And so usually at home we have food from the north and food from the south. That's it.
And where in Puglia?
In Foggia, near Foggia. Yes.
I've been to Foggia once on a train, so I know. I stood up all the way from I think Florence to Foggia.
Yeah.
That's a long train trip to stand up the whole time. So,
yes.
But it's okay. It was a long time ago. I'm not. Anyway, but so when you think about the food from the South, that's your family. What are some of the things that stand out to you?
So there are many great menu. My father was really great to make pasta and many kind of sauce, and the best was matriciana, yes, and he spent a lot of time to cook the bacon before. But I don't know how many people eat bacon. But
Did he actually cure his own sausage too, or not? For the bacon, did he cure the bacon himself, or did he?
No. In the past, the family has many, like I don't know to say, is they did bacon from the own pig. But after the Second World, something changed, and the family became went in many parts of Italy, and Puglia too, and that's it. So we have many receipts.
Recipes.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. But not anymore. We don't have products from ourselves.
Right.
Yes.
So making all.
Yes, oil like bread or other. In the past, was all family work around that.
Right. One of the things that people may not know is that Puglia is like California. So most of the vegetables that are grown in Italy come from Puglia. And the same, like here, California grows most of the vegetables that people eat in the States. And so Puglia grows about 75%, I think, of the vegetables in Italy. And so it's a very, it's an important...
Yeah. About pasta is the 40%. That's the product, yeah.
Oh, 40% of pasta also.
Yes. The land in the past was a like Barilla. Yes, in the past is the 40% of pasta, Barilla pasta, made from the land of my family. Oh. So yeah, but something changed. Right. Yes, and now it's completely different. Also, anyway, I can say old brand, but in the south you can find many, because Puglia has the north and the south of Puglia. In north you have taste more strong, and also the oil is more sweet. Sweet. If you go in the south of Puglia, it's exactly the opposite. Is the oil is pretty acid, okay, but you can find the taste is not really strong. Is not really this.
It's more subtle taste.
Yes, yes, and anyway, you can find from the north to the south many difference. Okay,
it's a very beautiful region. Also, I mean, Gargano, for example.
Gargano,
it's just
too. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, if you get the chance, so many people when they think about going to Italy, it's the same as when you talk to Italians. Say, "Oh, we're going to go to the United States. Oh, where are you going? New York, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Orlando." You know, and it's the same when people go to Italy. So many people from the States, Florence, Rome, Pisa, you know, right, but
Naples,
but not that many go to Sicily, but it's a good idea. I mean, but the real Italy, I think, is found in the rural areas, like in Puglia, Basilicata, and all those different areas. Yeah,
in Italy, there are more than 20 regions. And for all kind of region, you have special food. So it's really different. You go in Lombardia, for example, in Lazio, Umbria, Basilicata, Puglia, Sicily, Sardinia. You can find really different kind of taste, and this is the first differentiation that you can find in Italy. Inside the region, you can find another kind of this differentiation between north, in the center of the region, and in the south. And this is really particular, because in a border between two regions, people say, no, this is from my region. This is no, this is from a region. No, it's impossible. So there is a sort of a pretty and nice fight between who is the first that made the invention that they did. Right. Yes, and that's it.
It's understandable. We've already established that Italy is where this pastry came from, not France. So we're and that Sicily is where panelle came from. So you know we've been on that track all during the show. So understood. So that's great.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Yeah, bye-bye. All right, so we'll let your daughters carry the rest. All right, so are you going to make the shoe?
Yeah, I already started making them. Oh. It's fine.
What did we miss?
So in the pan, I put butter, water. So first of all, you have to do the steps. First, so you start with water, then...
Is that room temperature? The water?
Yes, everything is room temperature. So water, milk, butter, salt, and sugar. And for the water, we need the same amount as the milk, so 125 and 125. Then we will need
125 grams.
Yeah, 125 grams. I'm doing everything with grams today. So, and then we need 112 grams of butter, then 5 of salt, 6 of sugar, and 140 of flour.
And this is for the single recipe or the double?
Single recipe.
Okay.
And for the eggs, it depends. You don't want it too liquid and neither too thick. Because if you put it too liquid, when you put it in a piping bag, that's what we're going to do. It's going to, and then put it in the oven, it's going to be like flat. It's not going to be that good. So we're going to add 1 egg at a time. And it's usually 220 grams. Of eggs. But it can depend on anything else.
Well, when you say it can depend, what does that mean exactly?
Depend on like if it's too thick or not too thick. So
how do we know that one? We have to do it by sight?
And at the same time, I'm going to show it. I'm going to show how like you can actually see it.
Okay. All right. Because that sounds a little scary, you know, because so that's good. All right. So do you need this turned on or do you,
it's already turned on.
It's already, okay. It's okay. Yes, because we know it takes a little while with this to get it going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just say that this is Great Taste, and it's a production of Fairfield Media Center. Jason Strong is our engineer. We appreciate his help always. And you can watch this on the Fairfield Media Center YouTube channel, right? And also, I want to tell everybody that formerly, the Great Taste radio program was on weekly here on KRUU, but Crew is no longer broadcasting. But the show now is on KICI in Iowa City, and pretty soon, maybe within the next 4 weeks, KICI will start streaming. So right now you can't hear it here, but pretty soon they'll be starting to stream, and I'll let you all know because I know you wouldn't want to miss the weekly show that's going to be starting again. Right now they're playing archive versions of the show that I've been doing over the past dozen years. So pretty excited about that, and I do plan to do some live shows in Iowa City too, maybe not until spring or so, but we'll see what happens. I know Matt Steigerwald and I have talked about doing a show at Rapid Creek Cidery, so that's coming up. Meantime, again, thank you to Green Building Supply. We're here every first Tuesday of the month, except for November, when we're here on November the 7th, Wednesday next month, because of Election Day, and also Everybody's Whole Foods for contributing all the wonderful ingredients. This is big. This is a big pot. What are we going to do with that?
Put all the tomatoes in there.
All the tomatoes are going to go in there, and then what are you going to do? Start to cook them?
Yes.
And when do you plan on doing that? I'm just interested. I just want to know, because all these people are going to be hungry, so just trying to see.
I'm already hungry.
You're already hungry. Okay. So you have incentive then to actually make sure that this gets done because you're hungry. Right. Okay. So tell us how it's going to work.
So now I'm letting it rest for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to put the oil and let it rest again. And then after I'm done with that, I'm going to put it in there. And then, how do you say that? Put the...
Turn the fire on under the pot.
Yeah, and, just let it there cook, mix it, and then when you see that it's getting... I don't know how to say this, more squishy.
Yeah, when it's softened, right?
It's more soft. You put a little bit more.
You're not trying to color it. You're just trying to get it soft, right? The tomato.
And then when you see that, you put
you add more oil and you put the heat up, and then when you start to see the sauce, a little bit of sauce, then that means that it's ready, and you just put it in a bowl. Wait for the pasta. And put the cheese in it, and then just mix it.
And mix it all together. Okay, so we're going to let us know when we should turn on the water, because we don't want to riot so that people are waiting too long, afterwards. But because it's pasta, we're not going to cook it during the show, because then it wouldn't be as good, obviously. So we want to prepare it so that it's ready after the show, and everybody can. That's why we want to explain everything so everyone knows. But we're probably going to put these on before the show's over to cook, right? Because they have to cook for a few minutes.
I mean, 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay, but we better start the water at some point. Let's just remember to do that. Now, also, what's the name of this pasta? Do you remember?
Yes, pasta primo sale.
Pasta primo sale.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think primo sale means it's like the cheese, the name of the cheese, and yeah, that's it.
Sounds really good. All right, thank you. All right, so you're making your little pastry bag, little piping bag.
Not really. I'm just meanwhile, while I'm waiting this to be done, that's actually done. So right now, I'm just gonna add the flour to the pan. So I'm just gonna take the flour, and what we have to see is it's gonna start mixing. And if you think you put not enough flour, it's good, because then it's going to start like compact. Is that how you say compacting? Like being more solid, and that's really good. And you're going to see like a texture on the bottom of the pan that's like going to be formed, and that's how you actually are going to know that you have to take everything, like take the pan out. So right now, I'm just going to add the whole flour.
Okay, so this mixture of the eggs and the milk, right? And what else was in there?
Butter, salt, and sugar.
And it'd come to a boil, so that's okay, right?
It depends.
So it's okay. This is definitely. I'm going to watch you, because, yeah. So it takes a lot of muscle. You need to whip it up here. You're using a whisk, right? And now you moved it off heat because.
I haven't. I'm taking it off heat because it started to go too fast. So you want it every little molecules in the pan, so in the mixture. You wanted all of them to be combined.
So you want it all. Okay, so you've got to get that flour completely combined with all the other ingredients that's in there.
Not really the flour, but all the chemical bonds in. Yeah.
You can see that? That looks tough, I'll tell you. So it takes a lot of. You've got to work out to make.
Actually work out. Yes.
So I'm not understanding what we're looking for on the bottom of the pan.
Yes. So if we can't really see it, but if you let me do this. Like this. There's like a platen on the bottom. I'm not sure if you can really see.
So there's just like a little, maybe a tiny, tiny layer that's sticking to the bottom? Is that what you mean?
When I'm done with this, I'm going to show it to everyone because it's way easier.
Okay. So don't let me get in your way, because I don't want to do anything to upset the potential choux pastry coming out right. So you just call me when you're ready. I'll talk about something else. All right? Oh, you're actually ready? Okay. That's fine.
Let me turn this off.
Okay.
Before we are going to blow up everything. One second. Let me take that. Thank you.
Okay, so watch. Get a kick out of that. All right.
Yes. So right now, 1 second.
You keep making that shoe. Does anybody make choux pastry around here very often? There's a. Well, you haven't in a while? Okay. Anybody else? I have never done it. I've watched it on TV a lot, though. By the way, I think I mentioned this earlier. So the the most recent season that we can see in the States of Great British Baking Show is on now, so on Netflix. So it's 2 years old because the people in England get to watch it, when it really happens. I don't know why we don't, but anyway, don't miss it because it's awesome. All right.
Okay. So now I'm going to add 1 egg at a time. So it's white and red mixed together.
And you don't care how much white gets in there? You're just going to...
No, you just want to, be 1 egg at a time.
Okay, so you basically, when you get 1 yolk in, you're about getting 1 white in at the same time.
Yes.
And
you want everything to be mixed together. So, when everything in here is mixed... Oh, geez. When everything in here is mixed, then you're going to add the new egg.
Wow. So this is a story that I've told before, but it has to do with pastry versus pizza. So pizza.
Pizza. Oh, okay.
Because there was a woman and her brother who lived in this little village above Verona called Chiero. And the woman was she had a pastry shop, and her brother had a pizza shop. And she would get up at 3:30, 4 every morning and make pastry. And he would get up at, 11, 12, whatever, something like that, and make dough for his pizzas. And because in Italy, it used to be, I think it's changed a little bit now, but pizza was always served at night, not during the day. So he didn't even open until, 7 o'clock or whatever. And when we would go in there, she invariably, because she knew that we were, it was easy to complain to us, she would talk about how her brother, all he did was cut out little round circles of dough and made a fortune, and all she did was get up at 4 o'clock every morning to make all these intricate, beautiful pastries that, basically by the time she got done doing all of it, she wasn't making anything, So it was a little family dynamic there that was kind of interesting. And they were right next to each other too, by the way, which was pretty funny. Okay, so all these eggs are going to go in there?
Pretty much. Maybe.
Uh-huh. But you're going to let us know if it changes?
Yes.
Okay, so you're going to be doing that for a while, so I'm going to come over here and I want to mention a couple of things. So I've talked a little bit, I always like to give people tips about how to find good food on the road. And we've talked about at different times that it's really important not to go by Yelp, which seems to be the place that everybody looks at because it's so simple to look at to find great recommendations for restaurants. And I ran across a really terrific, I think it's just the way to really explain why you don't go by Yelp, finally. Because I could tell you all kinds of other things, as to, who's writing the review and, what kind of palate do they have, how would you even know, and you have to look through all the reviews, so it's a lot of work, that kind of thing. But here's the kicker. So a couple of weeks ago, Money Magazine and Yelp got together to come up with the 50 best pizza places in the United States by state. Okay, so 50 best by state.
Are you joking me?
No, I'm not joking. I promise. I'm telling you. Wait till you hear more, though. And what they decided to do to find these 50 best pizza places in the United States by state was to create an algorithm to analyze all of the input from the different Yelpers in each state. So I looked at the results of all this, and I haven't. Not only have I not been to every state, I certainly haven't eaten at every pizza restaurant in every state. But I can tell you I didn't recognize one name from any state. There wasn't one name that I recognized. And I've eaten some pizza in a few places. And so then I talked to a couple of friends from different states, and I said, hey, did you see that this particular spot was named the #1 pizza spot in your state? And I think one response was, oh, that place is just so horrible. And there were a couple other responses like that. So this is what happens when you create an algorithm from people who really don't. This is, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have opened this can of worms. But anyway, the point is, if you want to look for really good places to eat, one of the things to do, especially if you're in a larger area, is to, and you don't know anything, is to go to Eater, E-A-T-E-R, eater.com, and look for the Eater 38. Eater updates the Eater 38 in major cities about at least 4 times a year, sometimes even more. So you can search through those top 38 cities in like whatever, Boston or Chicago, Minneapolis, and you can find all kinds of different cuisines represented because they're really good, and chefs actually look at Eater, to see what their reviewers are recommending. So it's really a good source. And Yelp is kind of like, well, it's like it's like buyer beware, right? It's like that's the kind of thing, for Yelp. And then one other thing that I want to mention is that the new season of Chef's Table on Netflix, yes, and there's baking going on. Right. Yes, you saw that, right? So that the new season of Chef's Table is on Netflix now, and I would highly recommend everybody take a look at that because it's going to be great. So, how's it going?
Hard for.
But it's coming together, huh?
Yes.
Excellent work. Okay. So, and here's another thing's happening here. The olive oil is going in the pan, and
I took the garlic out.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's just for a little flavor. Yeah. Gotcha. Okay, and that's going to happen. So I also want to mention, Andrea, you might like this if you're here somewhere still. I think you are somewhere. But anyway, so my favorite Puglia story about food is that we were going to visit this individual who actually grew. He had a lot of olives. He was growing olives, and we liked his oil a lot. So we wanted to see exactly how he was growing them. And this was a long time ago, and so we were staying over at his house. It was my wife and 2 children and myself, and he forgot to mention that his wife wasn't going to be there. She was out of town, and he also forgot to mention that he didn't know how to cook. And so when we got to his home, he didn't tell us, of course, any of those things, but he proceeded to try to make a very typical Pugliese dish, which was orecchiette with broccolini. And I think I'm not going to go into all the entire description of the disaster, but basically, we are still friends today, even after that. And I always remind him of the story. And one of the things that was even probably the worst part of the whole thing was that he had us go downstairs to get olive oil that he was going to use in it. And we opened the bottle and it was rancid. And this is a guy who's growing. You never met Piero, did you? When you guys went? We went? No, I don't think we met. Okay. So anyway, the point is that he's a great person, but just be careful when somebody invites you over to their house if they don't know how to cook, and they don't want to tell you, about it. That's the moral of that story. Okay. Tell tell us what's going on.
What do you mean? Like
you're exhausted, but other than that, what's happening?
I've been mixing and mixing and mixing. Okay, so it's done. Mm-hmm. So
how do you know it's done?
Okay, so when you put like a spatula in or a spoon or whatever you want, and it makes like waves.
Whoa, it looks like waves.
Like waves turning around like that side.
So you're sticking it in and then you're...
Well, I'm putting it up and then it makes waves on the thing. Mm-hmm. And then when that's done, you just put it in a piping bag, which what I usually do. Wait. Sorry. So what I usually do is I open the piping bag from the tip, and then And then if it doesn't like, okay, so you have to push it until like the bottom, till it's out. And then you turn around your piping bag like that, so you make like a round thing. And then with your thumb, you put it in, you push it in, so like this, okay? So if you have something liquid, it won't fall out, and so like if you don't have a lot of help, it would just like all go out. But if you do this, it won't. And then you just turn the piping bag around like this. If you have a spatula, some people do usually, they just like leave some of the part out. Even if what the spatula is, it helps to scrape everything out of the border so you have nothing left. And some people like leave even if they have still like a lot left in, or they don't have a lot. And so it's kind of like, how do you say? Useful?
Yes, useful. But I think I like making pasta a lot better. It's so much easier, don't you think?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Can we put the
What would you like to do?
water?
Put the other water on?
Yeah.
Okay, so you want this on all the way? So you've got here that. Okay. So we've turned that on, and if you put the lid on, it'll and then we'll take this pot. You want this pot over here too? Okay. Do that.
I have more space. Thank you.
Are you good? Do you need this burner
no,
anymore?
I just don't have any more space in here, so I would have just like to put it in another bowl.
Okay. So we'll turn this on now. So we've got the water on. Everybody can breathe a little bit easier. And excuse me, I'll find the lid for that.
That's too tiny. A bigger pan. My dad brought a bigger one.
Your dad brought a bigger one?
Yes.
Too tiny. We have two pans, so you want to just use one pot is what you're saying?
No, like instead of using this tiny one, we can use that big one.
Okay. Maybe Riley can move the water. That would be great. I'll let you take care of that while I continue talking. Okay, so yes, it smells great. It does. I don't know if anybody else can smell it, but it smells really, really, really good here. Okay. Okay, so what are you going to do? Are you going to stir this at all?
No.
No, you're not going to stir it. Okay. You're just gonna shake it a little bit. Okay, that's good.
And then
I love that.
Leave it there until, like I said, it's more
It's started to. The tomatoes are giving up their juices and they're getting soft.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And then there I'm gonna add the oil.
Okay.
And then leave it again.
So add more oil.
Yeah.
And then what is the spinach? Well, how's that going to work? I think this is interesting because this is also how, when you make like orecchiette with broccoli rabe, in Puglia, this is the same technique. So explain that, because it's another thing that we're not going to actually see on air.
So once the water, it's boiling and there's pasta in it, you just put the spinach in it and leave it there, and then just when the pasta is ready, just you'll have the pasta and the spinach together.
Right. So you're adding the vegetable to your pasta with the amount of time that you need for that vegetable to cook and be finished and ready to go when the pasta is also ready to go. So it makes it really easy. Also, like this is a big pot. That is quite the pot. I think we can actually put this water in there too. So let's just do that also. So many of you know Lenora Boyle, right? Some of you who are watching know Lenora, and others don't. But anyway, Lenora is in Italy right now, and one of the things that she has gotten to do, there we go, which is really great, is she's gotten to actually go to a place in Rome that I sent her to that makes cacio e pepe, which we've discussed on the show before. It's a very simple but traditional Roman dish. And I'll explain more about that in a minute, but first we're going to let Elisabetta tell us what she's doing. Because I know you're piping.
Yes. So what I did is I put the tip in the piping bag, and I took parchment paper. And so if you have like continue like flowing parchment paper, what you can do is with the dough or whatever you are making, you can put it under, and you can stick the parchment paper on it so the parchment paper wouldn't be as flowy. And then...
Can I show?
Yes, of course.
So it's on the ends. You okay?
Yes.
So the ends, she's put a little bit of dough down to keep the parchment in place.
And what I do is I put my hand like this, so with my thumb like that, and I put it like this. Then I turn around, and then without pushing with this hand, but only pushing with this other end, I do this. I push it down. And then I stop pushing, and I turn around. So I do pipe, stop, turn.
And those circles are about like 1 inch in diameter, I think, huh?
I have no idea.
Yeah, about 1 inch in diameter. And so what is that going to form? Because again, we're going to be off air by the time this happens. So is that going to form the bottom, the top, the...
I'm just going to do this. And I'm not doing the other ones. I'll show later how to do the other ones.
Okay.
I'm just getting the...
Okay. While she's doing that, I'll remind everybody that... Oh, you're back already. Okay. Oh, this is the top. Right.
I couldn't make it as thin as it usually needs to be. We're going to have an extra crunchy layer. So...
I don't think anyone's ever turned down extra crunchy layers, so...
So what I'm actually going to do, 1 second.
Okay.
I have like a round thing, so you quite want to like have it by like the same size of what you're doing. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna push it down.
Okay, so with the crunchy layer, you're making it the exact same size as the layer that you're piping.
Yes, pretty much. Then I'm gonna turn. Then I'm gonna try to take it out by chance. It's hard, so I'm just.
You'll get it. You'll get it. That'll be fine. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the panelle before we, finish this section or this show. So the panelle is chickpea flour, and all I did was I took a ratio of chickpea flour to water and some salt and pepper. So this was about, I think, 2 1/3 cups of chickpea flour to 3 cups of water, and then salt and pepper, and whisked it so that all the lumps were out of it. And then I started to cook it, and I cooked it for about 3-4 minutes on medium high until it turned into a very thick batter. And then cooked it a little, turned the heat down, then turned the heat down and to low until it started to pull away from the sides, until the chickpea flour started to pull away from the sides. And then when that was done, Kathleen Johnson very kindly spread it out for us. And you want to make sure that it's really thin, about 1/4 inch thick. That's it. Because then what we're going to do after we let it cool, which it's cooled now, we're going to cut it, and then we're going to fry it. And it fries in just 2 to 3 minutes. It's really great, browns up, and it's delicious. Sicilian snack food, Sicilian street food, actually, panelle. So that's basically it. It's really simple to do and really delicious. Okay, so.
Yes, I couldn't do it with this, so it's better if you have what are these called? Cookie cutter, yes. And since I didn't have one, you can use anything, or either way, you can just cut it in small pieces. It doesn't matter. You can just put it on, and then just put it in the oven, 350. Wait until the crunch made a layer on it, and it disparted, so all the molecules are poof, gone. Never open the window of the oven because then they're gonna be flat. and I don't know how about like how many minutes. It depends on like when you think they're ready and they're golden brown and everything. You just take them out and you just let them cool. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the middle and then fill up with the cream that we couldn't make. But there is a cream, or either way you can make whipped cream with powdered sugar and vanilla beans that makes chantilly, and then you can just pipe it in the thing.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you make the cream because you are going to do that. So that's going to be wonderful. Thank you all for coming. This has been Great Taste, a presentation of Fairfield Media Center every first Tuesday at Green Building Supply. I'm Steve Bosch, your host, and this has been really fun having Elisabetta and Carlotta here, and can't wait to taste all this wonderful stuff and have you guys back again to make more things. Don't forget the Queen Amman. Yeah. You've been watching Great Taste on Fairfield Media Center's channel, YouTube. That's where you can go to see it. Thank you very much. 60 minutes of delicious YouTube TV.
Great taste. Sweet. Sour. So good to taste.